I do have some interesting court cases for you to see.
Reshuffled the charges, refiled the case, and round 2 begins.
Well, hey, welcome on back. This is part 2, okay, for offended Outcast, and I have taken a deeper look into his background. And, well, holy crap, hey, I'm here to tell you, there's some serious issues. So I can see in his video why he would have said that he is, you know, has to live with what his background is, okay? That was in part 1. I'll put that into the description box way down on the bottom. It'll be right at the bottom in the description box if you want to see part 1. And I'll also put at the end, they usually have little boxes you can put in here. I'll hit one of the boxes so you have an opportunity to jump from here then to that one. Once again, everything I'm showing here, public information. This is a reaction channel, okay? I do things a little bit differently than what other reaction channels do. I know a couple people in the comments had said that, well, you know, I wish they would stop these, you know, and stop the internet from doing this. People watch it, okay, and there's a thing called an off button. We have a lot of stuff that we can view, and if you don't like it, whatever. But we're gonna, so due to the Public Information Act, I was able to get a letter from the Armed Forces saying that he never was in the Armed Forces. They have no record of it. Now, there was an incident where they did have a whole bunch of their files burn up. I didn't look too much into that, but so that could be, all right. I do have some interesting court cases for you to see. Oh boy. He's been dumping videos on his channel too. I asked to get information on what is, because a lot of people have said, well, he's supposed to tell everybody that, you know, he's a sex offender. I got the information from Kentucky, condensed it down into a couple paragraphs, and you're going to be really surprised on how Kentucky handles that situation, all right? And also keeping in mind that realistically this was a long time ago, okay? And also we're going to go through a few comments here. Once again, that's all public. Anybody can go to the video and see these comments. And I will tell you what I think of what some people have said. So let's get going here. So here's a letter that I received back from the United States, basically, their office who handles these archives, and basically is stating that there is no record of him because in his videos he's always wearing, I believe, the Marine hat. On his little shack that he built, he has the Marine information on there, and he, you know, just like a football game, you hang football stuff all over, and that may be him, okay? I never followed him, never subscribed to him, only watched a few videos to see what he had said, specifically, you know, when he had said that his wife had died and she had not. And other items that he had said which were also false. So, and one of the other things that had come up is was he able to do what he did when he moved out to that land and put up that shack? Let me cover that here before we move on. And the answer to that is, so every state has a minimum domicile size. So it has to be so much of a width, so much of a length, and so many square feet. And then on top of that, then there has to be potable water, proper sewage system, and that could be just a holding tank, electricity. There has to be some basics in order for you to be able to live in something, okay? Now, you can go to a county and say, okay, I'm going to buy this piece of land out there, and temporarily, can I live in this until I build a larger house? And the answer usually is yes, you can. So in his current situation, not knowing what he did with the county or the township that he's in, there's two variables here. Number one, either he did this in the cloak of night per se, and he's living out there illegally, or he got some kind of variance, okay? Some places can be very, who really cares? Put a shed up, make it into a house, go poo and pee in a, portable outhouse. And if you want to live on solar, God bless you. I know where I live specifically, they would never allow it. They'd throw you out the door. So let's move on to court cases here. So first court case is going to be 1994, and this is strong armed robbery in Pinellas County, specifically Clearwater in Florida, okay? If you want to specifically know where that is, St. Pete, Clearwater, Tarpon Springs, outside of Tampa. It's that part of Florida that hooks into the Gulf, okay? So this is where this was right here. So strong armed robbery without a gun, okay? So I don't know, because this happened a long time ago, they don't put these records into the information for the specifics. I know in my state, when you're looking at CCAP, you can go up to the right and click through a few buttons, and then it'll give you a breakdown of everything that went down with the court case and summaries and stuff like that. So either which way, this is one of the sins that he's talking about that he has to live with. The second one right here is in Ashland, Wisconsin. And in Wisconsin, way at the top west is Ashland. So way up there, right by Lake Superior, Minnesota, that area right there. And that was for forgery. And he had 8 counts of that and pled to 1. Charges were filed for that in February 2nd of 1999. So that was way back then. And then, so he was placed on probation, okay? Then he got an absconsion. Basically, he took off on the parole office. And so he's got a probation violation for that, so they picked him up for that. Warrant date on that was warrant date for that was May 29th of 1996. So then we had another one, same absconded fugitive of probation and a probation felony. So warrant date of November 11th, 2011. Now also keep in mind too, both the incident that happened down in Florida and in Wisconsin, he was claiming that he was living in Michigan. So that right there is really strange itself. I'd like to know the story, the full story behind that one. Okay, and this is why we're here. This is why we're uncovering this stuff right here. So in Kentucky, we're talking contempt of court, sodomy, ×2 of rape, and disposition. And that was that court record. Let's see here. Conviction date on that is going to be December 21st of 2009. So he had basically a total of three different charges down there. Two of them in one county, and then this one right here, 3rd-degree rape in another county. So he's had a checkered past, okay? So I can see why, once again, in his videos that he would go through and say, well, you know, I have to live with what I did. Here's one that's interesting. This is his channel, Metrics. He started dumping videos. So, and maybe not dumping them, maybe he, you know, pulled them off, re-edited them, and maybe is putting them back up, because what it shows is last week Thursday he took down 3, and then last week Saturday he took down 19 of them, but then it showed in today's metrics that 18 of them got put back up. But if you go back to his channel and you were paying attention, he had like 437 videos, but as of today there was only like 411 or something like that. So even though the metrics here, and I warned everybody about these channels that show what people's, you know, money volumes are and stuff like that through their information on these websites, and a lot of times it's not off, okay? A lot of times that especially the dollar amount, you know, it showed that I made $187,000 on the diesel channel that I have, and I made $7,000. This is a love. This is something that you do for the love of doing it, not for making money. You know, not all of us are going to be the Mr. Beasts of the world. That's just the simple fact and matter of that. So let's move on here. So what I did is I condensed down in Kentucky what their requirements are, and in the video of the neighbor, they're like, well, you know, shouldn't he be telling everybody? Well,
yeah, but he's a pervert, dude. No, he's a sex offender with a record.
My God, and here's another one that surprised me. So
when he moved to Hollywood, he had to go door to door to tell everyone he was a pederast.
In Kentucky, registered sex offenders generally are not required to personally tell everyone that they meet that they are on the sex offender registry. Instead, the state relies on a public registry maintained by the Kentucky State Police, where anyone can search for registered names, photos, addresses, and conviction information. But that doesn't mean that there are no rules. So depending on the offense, the victim's age, and the probation and parole conditions, additional restrictions may apply in some of the cases involving offenses against minors. Kentucky law also limits the certain online communications with people under 18, including through social media and messaging and apps and other electronic platforms. So what does that mean for YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and other social medias? Being on the registry does not automatically prohibit someone from having a social media account and creating online content. However, some of the offenders may face court-ordered or statutory restrictions on how they use those platforms, especially if minors are involved, or if they have attempted to communicate and gather information about children online. If you're interacting with some social media, it's worth remembering that not everyone is required to voluntarily disclose their criminal history. Kentucky's registry exists so that the public can access the information themselves and make them a informed decision. And this topic surprised you, share your thoughts and comments, blah, blah, blah. So that is the quick nub of the matter on that particular situation. So you do what you're gonna do, okay? And like I had mentioned before, I had asked people to leave comments. I wanted to know what they were thinking. And of course, you know, you're gonna have some of the people are like, oh yeah, you're being nefarious, you want people to add extra comments, for YouTube, to build your video. And, you don't have a whole lot of people that, are subscribing. Well, it's a fresh channel startup, okay? It is what it is, okay? Takes years to build a proper business. Takes a long time to build up on YouTube, okay? Once again, 99% of people who start a YouTube channel very, very rarely ever get over 1,000 subs. Just fact of the matter. Look it up yourself. Got a computer, yeah, carry one in your pocket. Some people should, check stuff out before they talk, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm just being neutral here. So he was enticed by this girl. He stepped over the line that he should not have stepped over. So he's on the sex offender list, okay? Because of that. Is he a concern to the public and other children? I would doubt it. I don't see that. I think this was a one-off kind of thing, just because that person was in the household or that person was available and she was promiscuous herself, allowed it to happen. And none of the stuff, if you look at the charges themselves, if you go back and just pause the video and you look at the charges themselves, it's not first degree or second degree. They're third degrees. They're low-grade felonies. So the seriousness of it is not as bad as you would think, okay? Because people hear sex offender and like, is it bad? Absolutely, yes, without a doubt. Don't get me wrong, okay? I watched his channel and just was turned off by him. Just something about him that I didn't like. Just like Adventures with Purpose, Jared Lysick. I watched two of them, and I just really got rubbed the wrong way by him. It's just one of those spidey senses, and I'm always right. I'm always right in an individual. I had a friend who had a farm hand, and I said, boy, I tell you, I don't know, there's something about that guy that just, I don't know. And yeah, he was put in jail for sex offender. So anyways, not a pat on the back or that I'm some kind of psychic or anything like that. I just, I have that talent, and many other people have that talent as well. So let's move on to some comments here that we can talk about. Not here to bash anybody by any means or anything like that. What do we have here? Is this a soap opera of a YouTube platform? Look, I'm not doing anything different than, depending on your age when you're watching this, I'm not doing anything different than what 60 Minutes would do. I'm not doing anything different than what a news station would do. One news station gets a story and then everybody else picks up on it. Welcome to the future. Things have changed, all right? It is what it is. It's not an opportunistic thing that, I'm going to be viral on YouTube if I go do this. This crap comes and it goes, and the video will never be watched ever again. That's just the fact of the matter. I watched Offended, but thought he was pulling on the heartstrings having so many pets in a confined space. I noticed he had members only page, and that when I just quit watching altogether. I appreciate the resources that you made available, and have a good one. Thank you very much. Yeah, he was pulling on people's heartstrings. The wife died, other people in my family died. I have a hard background. I got to live with this kind of stuff. And throughout his videos, he kept that up. The only way he was able to afford based on what he said, okay, that he had to sell his house because of, the utilities were too much, and, he had all these bills and everything and people's burials to pay for, which, the court isn't going to make you pay for somebody else's burial. You just go to the government, sign up paperwork, and they provide a little bit of money to basically, get people buried and or usually incinerated. And that would have taken care of that. So as far as utility goes, if he wants to live in a little RV, or currently where he's living in a shed and not have power, not have proper septic or anything like that, with that house, he could have just simply turned off the utilities, but I think it had more to do with the divorce. Every state divorce, you normally have to sell the house, split the money up. So that's what my thinking is behind that. Let's see here. Why is offended outcast in trouble? Did he break his parole duties? Okay, so I haven't seen anything new in court, but that usually takes a while with a probation violation. He did say in his last video that he had put out that that he was in some kind of trouble, and it came back to me as that they were going to try to re-prosecute him.
Yes, my name is Raymond Krebs. And yes, I'm on the sex offender registry list here in Kentucky. I was charged with a crime, convicted, and sent to prison. Later, that case was overturned by the Kentucky Supreme Court. And later, the same county reshuffled the charges, refiled the case, and round 2 begins. So now I'm faced with a hard choice. Try to fight a lengthy battle, another 2.5 years in court with no resources, or take a plea deal. And we all know the end result of that, don't we?
Because he was let out of jail on a technical situation, and a quick read through the summary from there, it had looked like because he was in the middle of making some kind of deal with the county, and something to do with a statement from the police officer and a statement by the victim, due to technicalities, these tiny little technicalities in court, they had let him out early. So that's what I got from it. And there's no doubt that prosecutors, city, state, county prosecutors, that looks bad on their record. So between that and a sheriff's department, they want their pound of flesh. So they'll come back after you again. You don't get the relief of that, yes, I served my sentence, you can't come after me again. If they let him out in a technicality, they can come after you again, which I think at this stage of the game, and I'm not putting in a vote for him. You do your own thing. Like I said before, just leave him alone, okay? He's looks like he got ran over by a fleet of horses to begin with. So, all right, so here's the next one. I was hoping with your investigation skills that you would be able to provide more detailed special information about the current court proceedings and the retrial and stuff like that. Google doesn't know. This isn't a free-for-all, okay? You got to be very careful on what you put up. And a pending case would be something that you could not put up on YouTube, okay? It doesn't fall within their guidelines. There's... And it's always weird with YouTube because you'll see one channel providing information and documentation, and then another one gets taken down and their channel gets taken away for doing the same identical thing. So it's always a crapshoot anyways. So that's what happens when you get computers making decisions. Let's see here. Thanks for your well-balanced podcast. I did watch the Offended Outcast podcast myself. I do agree with you that the man is a great communicator. I dare say that the main audience were older people and possibly people who were doing it tough. I am 71 years myself, and I have a lot of serious medical conditions, and it's not easy out there. No kidding. His struggles would have resonated with a lot of people. I do think that he knows he has stuff up big. I do think he knows he has stuffed up big time in his life. Most likely having regrets, and the reason he's clearly is depressed. Being a sex offender is a life sentence. There's no doubt about that. So we'll leave that one at there. Thanks. Good balanced comment. That's the type of comments that we're looking to see here. The next one. So how much money is everyone making tearing this apart? Not quite sure where we're going there. I don't know if he means that, because we get paid on YouTube at a certain point that it makes the platform or the other platforms that pay for monetization makes it not as true as honest. Well, welcome to the corporate way, and what I mean by that is YouTube started out as YouTube, me being able to put something up and anybody who wanted to can watch it, and then if they like me or if they like what I was doing, they can come back and get more. Has it grown past that into nefarious? Yes, without a doubt. So a lot of people that do stuff on YouTube, they just outright lie. TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Just people get on there, they lie, they do stupid stuff in order to get views. I disagree with that. We've grown into lonely people. So here's one here. Enough is enough about Offended Outcast. Well, like I said earlier, there's an off button. Use it. If you don't want to watch it and you didn't want to hear any more about it, then why did you even stop in to check it out, okay? It is what it is. Look at how big of a deal they made out of Joe Biden's son with getting a gun while he was on drugs, and then they wanted to crucify him to the wall. Every newscast that you would see was talking about it, and it got so sickening. Basically, everything has a 2-week freshness date, and then after that it goes away, okay? Just like they went through and tried to prosecute Trump to the wall in New York for something that nobody complained about, and a prosecutor really shouldn't be trying to prosecute anybody that, first off, isn't anything illegal and nobody complained about. But here, this shows how politically stupid our system actually is. I'm not Democrat, Republican, or anything. I think they're all a bunch of thieves and a bunch of BS crap. But anyways, I'll leave it at that. I'll throw up those cards here if you want to see those. Thanks for coming by, checking this last video out here. Unless anything comes of that is really earth-shattering, check out my next video. It's about AI security. It's done really well. You should enjoy it, and stick around for a while. If you like me, you like me. You don't, move on with the life. I appreciate it, okay? So we'll see you on the next one.